Yeah, I want to welcome everybody tonight, and I really appreciate you coming on. And we do this every week, so you can invite your friends. If you want to learn more about Shackley, hear some different stories, that's what we're about. So tonight, we have Karen Linus, who's going to start out and give her story first. So Karen?
Hi. My story is not really mine. It's more like my mom's.
Okay.
My mom started about 36, 37 years ago in Shackley. And she was more into the beauty makeup and the colors and all that. She considered herself a beauty consultant. And so she's Shackleyized. She put everything into the business. And we, as grown-up kids, just kind of like, okay, that's mom's thing, let her do it. And as we went along, my dad started not feeling well, and so he needed some more help. And so I moved back in with my parents to help them with my dad. And one night we were getting ready for bed, and mom was puttering around in the kitchen, and we had a Cocker Spaniel. No, at that time we had a little brown dog, and he loved his treats. I don't know if you can see this, but he loved his treats, and he would carry him around with him all the time. And he was just a sweetheart of a dog. And we decided I was going to put him out while mom was getting ready to go to bed. And he came into the kitchen and dropped his little treat on the floor and went out to go outside. And mom turned around and put her foot down on that treat, and it slid across the floor. And that was bad enough because she was starting to do the splits. Now realize mom is retired from being a teacher. So she's in her 70s, 80s, late 70s, something around there. And so she starts to do the split, but then her lead foot that was on the dog bone went on up the side of the refrigerator, and she ended up with a vertical split as far as she could go from top to bottom, and ended up on the floor. And we called the emergency people, and they came out, and she was in a lot of pain. And so they took her to the hospital. And this is a long time ago, remember? So back then, we could all of us can join to the hospital. We were all right there. So she had 4 of her 5 adult children and her husband at the hospital waiting to see how she was doing. The doctor came out and he says, I don't know how she's still got mobility or anything and why she's not screaming in pain, because she has torn every muscle and ligament off of the bone of her leg, just completely taking them all off. And so he says she's going to be in the hospital for at least 6 or 7 days while we get her situated and figure out what we're going to do. Well, they didn't want to do any surgery because it was extensive. There was way too much. So they just going to handle it medically. And so they put her in a room, gave her lots of drugs, and said, okay, this is where we're going. So at that time we talked to the doctor, and the doctor said, yeah, she's not ill. She's just got an injury. So we brought in her blender and her meal shake and her protein and all of the Shackley that she took and put it on the shelf on the windowsill. And every day, of the 4 children, we took turns and we stayed with her 24 hours a day. So we were there the whole time in her room. Somebody slept with her and everything, to make sure she got her medications on time and everything, so she wouldn't be in too much pain. And so every day she would order a chocolate milk for lunch and a salad, because they got upset if she didn't have anything else. So she had to have something to eat. So every day she would have her meal shake and all of her vitamins throughout the day. And Shackley then back then didn't have a vitalizer strip, and they didn't have some of the new things, the Nutriferon and the some of the other things. I don't remember if they had Omega Guard at that time. I think they did. Lecithin and things like that she had. So we took A, B, C, D, E, F, L, and O, and and on down the line. And she had maybe 15 bottles lined up. And the first 3 or 4 days, the nurse, every time we had a new nursing shift, we had to explain it to them, because they're going, oh, you can't have all this stuff in here. We could only have what the doctor's ordered. So we'd say, go look at the doctor's sheet. And they'd look at it, and he had written on the orders that she was allowed to have her vitamins. So they allowed it. And one nurse kept coming back every time she was on shift to talk. She liked Mom, and she talked to her a little bit. And I don't think she's on tonight. She said she was coming, but her name is Betsy. I think she came one time before. And she kept coming back and talking to Mom about her vitamins and talking to her about her meal shake. And we'd blend up a meal shake every day, and she'd have it. They said she recovered from that injury about 10 times faster than anybody they'd ever seen before. She has no problems with walking. She never had to have any physical therapy. It was just amazing how quickly she healed. We kept in touch with that little nurse, and eventually she became a member, and then she became a distributor, and she's been pretty faithful ever since. And we're working on getting her to be a director, but she said, I got to wait till I retire. So we're working on that right now. But the biggest thing was that people couldn't believe that, she that was taking that many vitamins. She's 98 today, and she doesn't take hardly any medications. A little bit for her eyes, a little bit for her ears, and something for, she had a febrile seizure one time, and they got all panicky about that. So they put her on seizure medication, and they don't want to take her off of it. So she takes 3 medications, and the rest of it's Shackley. And she's 98. We are hoping to go to 108. And that's our story for tonight.
Wow, that is amazing, Karen. I had never heard that story before. And sometimes people look at, I don't remember how many bottles that you said that she was taking, and they freak out by that.
Yeah.
But it's all food concentrates, instead of the drugs. That's so awesome. That is so awesome. Thank you so much for sharing. Thank you so much for sharing.
Welcome.
Yes. Okay, so our next person tonight is going to be Ann Saloy, and she's going to be talking about allergies. And I love this because so many people, I hear this all the time. Oh, they just have allergies. Oh, they just have allergies. It's like, that's part of life anymore to have allergies. Mm-hmm. And it's like, no. So our next one is Ann. Thank you so much. I'm excited about having this having a recording of this. Thanks.
This is one of my favorite things to talk about, and it's not my story either, Karen. This is my brother-in-law's story. So I'm going to show you a picture of him, if that's okay, just so you can understand like what's going on with this. So we're caregivers for, this is my husband, Doug, and this, you guys see the picture? And this is my brother-in-law, Dan. And Dan, we were caregivers for 23 years. Dan was born and has a birth injury. They used forceps with his delivery, and he was mentally challenged. He had epilepsy, so he needed caregiving. So we decided to move into Doug's old house, build an addition, take care of Doug's mom and Danny. And Danny was already on 3 medications for epilepsy because
move your thing away from your mouth, Ann, again.
Oh, I'm sorry. There was really not a whole lot we can do with epilepsy issues that were from birth because it was a birth trauma. So he's been on these medications since he was 3. His mom didn't want to put him on any other stuff because she figured that, nutrition, she didn't want him to take any other pills. She also was somebody that trusted the doctor and not nutrition. So like the doctor was, his word was the word and that was it. But doctors didn't know much about nutrition back then. They still are learning more, but they still don't know a whole lot. So fast forward, we became his caregivers, 25 years ago or so. And he had seasonal allergies, and I'm not kidding, from April till October. The one thing Dan loved to do was cut the grass because he was physically able to do a lot of things at that time. But he just, he just needed help with daily activities and thought process and reasoning skills, stuff like that. So his job was doing the lawn. But when he would do the lawn from April to October, which is when you're cutting grass, he would come in and his nose would be red. He would be sneezing. His eyes would be watering. I mean, I'm not talking one sneeze. I'm talking about 15 minutes of constant sneezing. And this went on and he just would be suffering. Doug's mom didn't want to give him anything else. And I knew nutrition can help him. So when we became his primary caregivers, I'm like, okay, Dan, here's what you're doing. And it was, it's funny because people say, oh, it could be a placebo effect with nutrition sometimes, whatever. But it's almost funny because placebo effects still work, even if it's not, you know what I mean? So there's the power of the brain there. But Danny's not a person, it's almost like giving it to a child, because he wouldn't be able to say this works or didn't work. It is his symptoms just disappeared. Let me tell you what he took. All right. So we had him on the vitalizing plan because that's just the basic for everybody. So everybody should be taking that. But there's usually 2 or 3 other things you might want to add for seasonal allergies. The first one is the one I recommend to everybody because it usually is the least expensive and the most effective. And that was the case for Danny, and that was alfalfa. Not many people know about alfalfa or know what alfalfa is. They think maybe if they live on a farm, they know they give it to their horses or cows, right? But they really don't realize how powerful it is for people. But alfalfa's got all of these really great trace minerals in this plant that Shaklee has. And I love this. If you see this here, it has no fungicides, no bactericides, no synthetic hormones, like none of the yucky stuff you'd see in a lot of the supplements you'll find on the market today. It's just the pure concentrated superfood. And it's those trace minerals, I think, because there's not a whole lot of science or clinical studies behind this other than it works. And this is the first thing I always tell people to do is just try the alfalfa. They freak out a little bit when they realize it's 10 tablets is 1 serving. Until I tell them, all right, you don't count how many peas you put on your plate, right? You're eating food. So let's pretend this is just food you're eating. And if you need to crush it up, crush it up. If you're able to swallow it, swallow it. So Dan, that's all he needed to take is 10 alfalfa every single day. He's been symptom free. I'm not talking about diminishing symptoms. I mean symptom free for 25 years. And all it was just this little alfalfa tablet. And he tells everybody this story. He wants to become my Shaklee distributor because he loves how he feels on the Shaklee nutrition. He's 73 and he's doing really great. He's not on any other medications except for his epilepsy meds, which he continues to be on. But he asks every month for his Shaklee nutrition because he knows how much it has helped him. Now, if alfalfa doesn't do the trick for you, you might want to try Nutriferon, which is another immunity product, because if you have seasonal allergies or allergies of any kind, it's because your immune system's not properly functioning. So it just would make sense to add immune supplements to your regimen, right? So the first one I'd recommend is Nutriferon, which is amazing for any kind, just to make sure your immune system is working as powerfully as it can be. It kind of is, Nutriferon is kind of like the conductor of your immune system. So make sure that every single player of your immune system is working at the optimum level, which is what we need right now for sure. And then if that's not enough for you, then maybe try Immunity Formula 1. It's so popular right now that it's on back order, but it'll be available at the end of next month. So, be patient because people are really, really wanting these nutritional products right now. But I would start with the vitalizing plan, add the alfalfa, see what that does for you. That might do the trick just like it did Dan. Don't be afraid of the 10 tablets. My grandmother used to take 60 for arthritis, so don't be afraid of that. It's just superfood. And it can make a huge difference in your life. It really could. So I'm going to stop sharing and then hand it over to Nina.
You know what's so interesting about what you shared there, Ann, is I just had a guy this week and he came here to the office and he started on alfalfa and he said, so how many of these suckers do I need to take? They're always worried about how much I got to take. And so I went and grabbed a teaspoon, and I learned this years ago. Mm-hmm. And so we opened the bottle and I filled the teaspoon up and I dumped it in his hand. I said, a teaspoon a day. And he goes, oh, that's all? I said, if I told you 10 a day, how would you have done? Mm-hmm. He goes, oh, that was smart. Mm-hmm. But back to the purity, and I know that's not what we're talking about tonight, but years ago, we didn't have alfalfa because a neighbor sprayed his fields and there was an overspray. And that got into our product. And when they brought it in, Shaklee said, sorry, there's chemicals on. He said, there can't be. I've grown it exactly the same all these years. But we didn't have alfalfa for an entire year. And people went and tried all these different companies of stuff, and they could not get the same results. So we could have sold it and nobody would have known the difference. So thanks, Ann. That was awesome. I love that people look at as it's an immune system problem, all the allergies, and then it leads on to something else. So, all right. So we have seen the amazing products that we have, or we've talked about them. this is a great starting place that Ann, well, Ann talked about the protein and the vitalizer, but this is a great starting spot. And there we go. And then we've got personal care products, and then we've got amazing cleaning products, which a lot of times can go with allergies as well. And you can save a lot of money. So that was a conversation I had with somebody today. So I want to talk about the next part though, because if you love these products, you can, and you want to have your products paid for, and I'll tell you what, there's some amazing things coming. But if you love the products, is it fair to keep your mouth shut? That's what I always say. Share it with your friends, but you can't share it unless you've used them. And this is how you share. Find 5 of your friends. What's the best movie you've seen lately? That's what I look at. What's the best movie you've seen lately? Because this is just part of life. We all do this. But there's so many households, and I don't know if this is you or if it's a friend of yours that could use an extra $500 to $1,000 a month. So I want to share how that happens. You just find 3 of those people to do the exact same thing that you're doing. Okay? And when they do the exact same thing you're doing, and you've got about 30 people in here, that makes $1,000 a month for you. But you can see that it's not you doing all the work. So if that's something that you might be interested in, you know, let whoever invited you know that. Everybody gets into Shaklee for different reasons. Most people come in for better health. They want to feel better, look younger. You know what, as I'm aging, I shared with somebody the other day how old Ellen was, and they were blown away because they saw your picture. They were blown away. We don't show our age as we grow older, which we love. So, but feeling healthy, that's a big place people start. But a lot of times people will take stuff to look better before they'll take stuff to feel better. Some people do it for recognition. Tax savings is huge. That's a big reason to me to get involved. But if it's the 500 to 1,000, you know, that could be where it starts. And then you move up in your thinking. You change your thinking that there's other possibilities. Because when I got started, there was no way I ever thought I'd be where I am today. Never thought it. So, and we are in a time right now that it is so much easier to share than it was in the past. We've got systems in place to help you move forward. And it starts out always, these are averages of the company. I want to tell you, show you possibilities. And it always starts out doing exactly what I showed you on that first slide. And if you take 2 or 3 people along with you, this is where you would start. That's the average. And then the next step would probably be between the 33 and the 49. Because when you help other people to achieve what they want, you get more of what you want. And then when you get to there, you help 3 people do that, and that jumps you up to the higher income again. So I hope that this has been helpful to you tonight. And my question is, where do you see yourself fitting in? And with that, I'm going to say thank you. I hope that you learned something here tonight, and invite friends next week.
Absolutely. That's
Okay.
great. I wanted to mention, I have, for anybody, because alfalfa is one of my favorites. And I've had so many. I mean, Barbara, my allergy patients have had tremendous results. But I have a sheet that I don't know if you all have, but I'd be glad to share it.